Hey, what's up everyone? It is me, Danny Lightning. So today we are reviewing the Lauten Clarion. Now this is a beautiful condenser microphone. This has quickly become one of my favorites. Now there are a couple of microphones I have that sound similar to this, but I do think this picks up a little more detail. It's got a little more something on the high end. It's just a really nice sounding microphone. First, let's get the bad stuff out of the way and go to the cons, and this is definitely not a deal breaker for me, but if you tap on the microphone, the resonance is really bad. So yeah, the shock mount works great, but do not bump the microphone. I mean, I can tap on the desk, it's fine. I can tap on the boom arm, and the shock mount does a great job, but if you bump the microphone itself, it's quite noisy. So no big deal. I mean, you're probably not going to be bumping the microphone anyway, but just so you know, there is a lot of resonance if you bump the microphone's body. The next problem for some people is going to be the weight. So it weighs 1.97 pounds, and I'm pretty sure that's the microphone. I think you add the shock mount, it's probably over a pound. So it feels like we got about a 3 to 4 pound microphone here. I can't find any exact specs on what the shock mount weighs, but it's pretty darn heavy, so you do need a pretty heavy-duty boom arm in order to hold this. So now that the bad stuff is out of the way, I have zero complaints about this thing besides those two things, and neither one should be a big deal as long as you have a good boom arm that can hold this thing. Dear Lauten Audio, if you're out there, if you're listening, please let us know in the comments what this thing weighs with the shock mount. But when it comes to sound quality, this just sounds nice. Very clean, very clear, just a great sounding microphone. Sounds very natural overall. I mean, I feel like it just picks up my voice the way it should be. It's just a great microphone. So we're going to do a couple of quick tests. The first thing is, right now I'm clacking on a semi-loud mechanical keyboard just so you can hear how much keyboard sound this picks up in case you're, just in case you're typing and keyboarding at the same time. I don't know who uses the term keyboarding, but I do apparently. So if you're typing and keyboarding, that's what happens right there. Now we're going to test it for plosives and sibilants. So Peter Piper picked a peck of peppers, Peter Piper picked a peck of peppers, Peter Piper picked a peck of peppers, and Sally sells a bunch of seashells down by the seashore where the sailboats sail in the sunset to the south of the southwest of the sun. I just made all that up and it was terrible. I'm sorry, but do the S sounds sound harsh, and did the microphone pop the P's? I didn't really notice too much of either thing being a problem there, honestly. Now we're going to go ahead and test our proximity effects. So if we're a little further away from the microphone, this is how it sounds from, I don't know, way too far away. And this is the microphone from a little bit closer. Now we're at normal distance. Right now we're probably about 3 inches away from the microphone, maybe 4 inches away, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, a little more than a hand length, which is pretty much normal speaking distance. And now we're going to get right up on top of this thing and test out that proximity effect to see if it gets real bassy. I mean, my lips are touching the front of the microphone, and let's back off a little bit to normal microphone distance again. So there we go, but bam, there is our proximity effect and distance test for the Clarion. Let's do a quick off-axis noise rejection test. So this is the microphone in the normal position. Now we got the microphone turned around to 90 degrees. Now we got the microphone at 180 degrees. The other 90 degrees, and now we are back to normal speaking position again. So that's how well it rejects noise from the back and the sides. Now, my room is semi-sound treated, so we're not recording in the best room that's ever existed. And right behind me, I have a desk, a computer, a monitor. There's a bunch of junk over here. So when I flip this into the other polar patterns where it picks up from the front and the back and the sides and the back and all the way around, you're probably going to hear some unwanted stuff, including the computer fans. So keep that in mind. If I were in a real sound booth, you probably wouldn't have this, and those modes would sound a lot better. But Right now in my room, cardioid is really the way to go because that's only picking up what's in the front. So I do have this in cardioid, and right now it's on the plus 10 decibel switch. That's where I recommend it. Unless you want a little slightly mellower sound, when you put it on the flat switch, it's more mellow. If you put it on the minus 10, I mean, that's really just designed for recording really loud stuff. Like if you're recording a rocket engine, yeah, you might want to, or an airplane taking off, then you might want to put it on the minus 10 because those are very, very, very loud. So yeah, minus 10, only for super loud things that are about to break your ears or break the microphone just because it's too loud. All right, so I need to get out my glasses so I can see what's on the switches, but right now we have this in the cardioid, and we're going to go ahead and switch it over to one of the other polar patterns. So we are going to switch this right now to... All right, so this is the figure 8 polar pattern where they should be picking up from the sides and the back. So if I go around to the side here, or if I come around to the back, that's not a good test. Let me flip it around 180 degrees since I can't really get back there. So now it's picking me up from the back. That sounds weird for some reason. Why does that sound weird? I don't know. It sounds really strange, but it should be picking me up from the front and the back. It seems like it sounds different from the front and the back. I'm not sure if it's supposed to. Hold on, let me flip that back again. Check 1, 2, check 1. That's really strange. I mean, I don't really understand why that's... I hope there's not a problem with this microphone or something, but it sounds very different from the back. Huh. Weird. I don't know. Are they all like that? I'm not really sure. Let's try the other polar pattern, which is omnidirectional. Okay, so now we are on the omnidirectional, and it should be picking up from all the way around. Now, one nice thing about omnidirectional, no matter how close you get to the microphone, you don't really have a proximity effect. So it doesn't sound more bassy when you're in omnidirectional. Let's go ahead and just turn the microphone around. Since I can't get around to the back very well, let's just go ahead and turn this thing and be like... All right, so this is the way it sounds from the side in omnidirectional. This is the way it sounds from the back in omnidirectional. And this is the way it sounds from the other side. And let's go ahead and rotate that back to where it belongs. And my hands being in the way can change the way this thing sounds. So if you hear like a little bit of a difference when my hands move forward, don't mind that. That's just my hands blocking the sound waves from hitting the microphone capsule. But yeah, it's a little weird in the omnidirectional mode. Not omni. It's a little bit weird in the figure 8 mode, but omni sounds normal to me. But figure 8 sounds a little bit strange. I'm not really sure why, but let's flip this back into cardioid really quick. All right, so now we're back in cardioid mode where it's only picking up from the front. I mean, that's where 90% of us are going to use this, but it's really nice to have the different polar patterns just in case you need to switch for something. Now we're going to check out the minus 10, the plus 10, and the flat pad switch. So all that's going to do is reduce the volume, and sometimes this can change the sound a little bit. Right now we have it on plus 10, so let's put it on flat. So after I switch this to flat, I will actually boost the volume on the audio software by 10 decibels for this clip, so they're at the same volume, and then you'll be able to hear if there's actually a difference in the sound if they're at the same level. But it will get quieter, but I'm going to make them the same level in the thing just so you can properly hear if it sounds different. All right, so now we have the pad set to 0 decibels, so it's 10 decibels quieter than it was a second ago. This is the most flat setting, right? I think this does give you a little bit more of a flatter, more vintage, more neutral sound, but you got to turn your gain up about 10 more decibels, which, like I said, I'm going to do in the editing software. You know, louder always sounds better to the human ear, so you want to volume match things as close as possible. That way you can actually hear the differences without your ears being like, hey, that one sounds better because it's louder. And that's a fact, that louder sounds better to the human ear. Even the littlest, teeniest bit louder will make somebody think it sounds better, even if it sounds exactly the same. So you want to try and volume match as close as possible so that doesn't happen. Let's go to the minus 10 decibels. So that means I'm going to have to add 20 decibels to the recording in the editing software when I flip this switch down. So here we go. Okay, so now we are in the minus 20 decibels, and honestly, I don't think this is going to be a good thing for this microphone, because the only time I would ever use this is if I was recording something that was extremely loud to where it might damage the microphone because it's just too loud or something along those lines. But anyways, this is the minus 10. Let's put it back on the plus 10 where it belongs, in my opinion, because that's the one that I like best. It adds a little something to the high end. All right, let's flip that switch back. All right, so now we are back on my favorite setting, the plus 10 decibels, and I think this one sounds the best. This is just a really good sounding setting for this microphone. So this is where I like to keep it. You might like the 0 that gives it a little more of a flatter sound. This does boost the high end a little bit on the plus 10. I think it just adds a little bit of something in. I hear a little more resonance, maybe a little bit more harmonics or something, but it does something to the high end that just makes it sizzle a little bit, and I really like that. I have noticed on some of my recordings, people are like, well, how do you get such a nice, clean, clear recording? What are you doing to the audio? Well, I'm not really doing anything to the audio other than maybe running like a limiter or something. And when I run a limiter, I just use that for volume matching. So as basically as soon as it starts hitting the limiter wherever I set it, then I know I've got it at the volume I want. Then I turn the limiter off and I know I've got the volume correct. I don't know if that makes sense, but I use a limiter, but the limiter is not changing the sound. It's just adjusting the volume for me. And then I make so it's not limiting at all, just to make sure it's not squishing the sound. But on these microphone comparisons, and pretty much every video on this channel, unless I'm showing you how to work a plugin or something, I'm not running any type of processing on the microphone other than volume adjustments to make sure everything's at the right level. So there's no editing here, no processing. This is just the way the microphone sounds. If I'm having a bad day with mouth clicks where you can hear my saliva, I will run the mouth declick to get rid of the mouth clicks. But, that's very unpleasant to listen to. I don't do any EQ, no compression, no nothing. We're trying to keep these videos as natural and as realistic as possible when doing stuff like this. I mean, during a microphone review, I don't think people should be adding a whole bunch of processing, right? The bare minimum you have to do, and that's it, because people want to hear the microphone the way it is without a bunch of changes being made. When somebody starts processing, they're changing the microphone to make it sound the way they want it to sound, which is generally a little bit different than the microphone actually sounds. So that's not really fair for microphone comparisons or reviews. Now, this microphone, in my opinion, is hard to beat. There's only a couple of other microphones I've owned that sound as nice as this. Now, I find my Warm Audio WA87R2 sounds very similar to this. They both sound a little bit different, but they are super close in sound quality. And my SE Electronics SE4100 sound extremely close to this as well, which is surprising. But I do have some videos where I compared this microphone to those. Just type in Lauten Clarion. Those reviews will probably pop up, or I should say microphone comparisons. But yeah, this is just a really good sounding microphone. Now, it is a little bit on the expensive side, but I do see this going on sale every so often. Every couple of months, this goes on sale where you can save a good $300-400 on this thing. I can't remember exactly what the sales were, but you can get it for a lot cheaper if you wait till the right time. Like a lot of times on Black Friday, or they'll have like 4th of July sales or this or that at different stores that will make this microphone a lot more affordable. So if you buy it at the right time, you can get a heck of a deal. But even at full price, this is a killer microphone. So this is basically the same price as your Neumann TLM 103, but you don't have that huge high-end boost. It doesn't get extremely sibilant on some voices. It doesn't have that extended low end that just makes your recording sound kind of muddy. Like, you don't want to talk too close to a TLM 103 in my opinion, because lots of sibilants, lots of low end. I mean, in my opinion, I would much rather have something like this over the TLM 103 for about the same price. I think this sounds better. Unfortunately, I don't have a TLM 103. I used to have a recording of myself speaking into one, but unfortunately that recording got erased, or I would play it and let you hear it, but unfortunately the recording has been, well, terminated by a T1000 unit. I miss my recording of my TLM 103, but one of these days, if I can ever afford it, I'll pick up another one. I just hate to buy a microphone like that. If I had that, I would use it for nothing other than comparing microphones. That's an expensive purchase just to use for comparisons, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I'll ever get one or not, but I would much rather have this Clarion for the same price. Sometimes cheaper when you find it on sale. Now this microphone does come in a big giant wooden box that's beautiful. I'm not going to pull it out because, I got it up in the cupboard somewhere, up in the closet. It's in storage. I'll throw a picture of it up on the screen. This is what it looks like. It holds the shock mount, the little microphone cover, and the microphone. And I'm going to tell you what, this is a beautiful box. Like, I've got mine protected, right? I don't want it to get scratched up, so I've actually got some nice material around it. It's like in that little bag that came in with the packing that's kind of fuzzy so it doesn't get scratched and all kinds of stuff. So I'm overprotective of my little wooden carrying case, but that is a pretty sweet addition to the microphone. A lot of microphones come with wooden boxes. A lot of them don't. I mean, most of them don't. This one does, and it's pretty sweet. Now, this microphone is great for singing. It's great for recording instruments. It's great for voice actors, voiceover, any type of spoken word stuff. Now, if you want to hear this microphone on instruments, Podcastich has a nice review of this. The Time Preservation Society has a nice review with this where they record instruments and you get to hear them. The Microphone Assassin has he's a professional voice actor. The Microphone Assassin on YouTube has a great video where he reviews this. He doesn't play instruments, he just talks into it. But those are also a couple of really good channels you might want to look at if you're looking to, see some more videos on this particular microphone. Those guys really know what they're doing, and you'll get some great reviews if you watch those channels. Anytime you're thinking about purchasing a microphone, you want to watch as many reviews as possible. You want to hear it on as many different voices as possible and in as many different rooms as possible. I mean, some people record in absolutely terrible rooms where there's reverb everywhere. It's just an echo chamber. It sounds awful. Now, those reviews probably aren't even worth listening to because when a room is that bad, you're hearing more of the room echo coming back into the microphone than the person's voice. So a really reverby room, well, that is not ideal for recording in, and those reviews are not accurate in my opinion. So if you're listening to a review and there's all this reverb, personally, I would just turn that video off. If you're listening to somebody in a somewhat decent room, I mean, a little bit of reverb, yeah, I get it. That's cool. A room like mine, it's semi-sound treated. It's not perfect. It gets rid of most of it. So you're hearing a lot of my voice and very little of the room. But some of these rooms, you're hearing the room and very little of the person's voice, especially when they're talking too far away from the microphone. So some reviews are worthless. Some reviews are amazing. But there are a few channels out there that, I watch regularly just because they do good work. I know their reviews are accurate, honest, and good. Now, I promote a lot of cheap microphones on this channel, but heck, man, if you only got $40 or $50 and you need a USB microphone, some people, that's all they can afford or that's what they need. Now, if you can buy something like this, by gosh, it's going to be way better, but not everybody needs something like this and not everybody can afford something like this. If you can get a microphone like this, go out and do it. If you're recording in a good room and you can afford it, get yourself a really nice microphone. If you can only afford a $50 USB mic, then hey, that's what you can get and what you can afford, and you can make that work, for regular stuff for your average person. I wouldn't record any hit albums with it, but if you're podcasting or a YouTuber or something, one of those cheap microphones will do you very well until you can get something better. But if you're recording in a good room and you can afford to pick up something like this, just do it. You won't regret it. I mean, microphones like this are amazing. This thing, the LS208, the Clarion, this is the Clarion. I mean, the Atlantis. Let me rephrase that. So the Lauten Atlantis, the Clarion, and the LS208, three of my favorite microphones that have ever existed. Someday I would love to have the Atlantis, but personally, it's way out of my price range. Maybe one day Lauten will send one over so I can review it or something, but I just can't see myself spending that kind of money on a microphone because I just don't make enough money, right? My budget's not huge. Something like this, buying something at this price point is stretching it, and I can't do it very often, but something like this I can purchase maybe every once in a while. My little YouTube channel makes a couple $100 here and there, and usually I take that money and buy stuff to review on this channel with it. So whatever money this channel makes, it goes right back into buying things to review. Maybe like once a year I can buy something nice to review. If I could afford it, I would have the Atlantis here as well, but I think that one's a little bit above my pay grade at the moment. Maybe if this channel starts making more money, we'll be able to get one. But anyways, this is the Lauten Clarion. It's super amazing. If you go to YouTube and type in Danny Lightning Clarion, you'll find some other videos I did make about this, including some comparisons. And there's a little bug. I don't know if that's a spider, but it's crawling around on the top of my microphone. I'm not a fan of that. You probably can't see him, but he's right there. It's hurting my eyes to try and focus on that guy. I think I'm going cross-eyed there, but get off of my microphone, little bug. Why are you there? Don't make me smush you. I don't want to smush you. Normally, I don't smush bugs because I don't think I would want something to smush me, right? If there was something really big, I would not want it to smush me. I would want it to pick me up maybe and take me outside and let me go, but not smush me. That would suck. So I don't normally smush bugs because, hey, you treat other things the way you want to be treated, right? I can't tell if that's like an ant or a teeny tiny little spider or what that is, but I'm going to try and get it off of my microphone because I don't like it being on there. Anyways, that's pretty much our review of the Clarion. Thank you for watching. I'll put a link in the video's description to where you can get one of these if you're interested. It is a beautiful, super nice sounding microphone. I really like it. This microphone is awesome. All right, catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Check the pinned comment and the video's description for some ways to help support the channel and some info and news and some other thingy dingies you might be interested in. Have a wonderful day, and we will catch you next time. Lightning out. See ya.